like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Visit StogieGeeks.com/Debonaire for a list of retailers who carry Debonaire cigars. Buy some today and get a little more Debonaire. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stogie Geek Show. This is our Debonaire Ideal segment for this evening. We're going to talk about Tubos. Will, are you ready to talk about Tubos?
I'm ready to talk about Tubos.
All right, let's do it. I don't think we need the music to talk about Tubos, though. The music started kind of late. The guys are really excited about our new theme song, apparently.
Yeah. So Tubos are, when I went to Vegas a few weeks ago and took some cigars, I actually took some cigars in Tubos. And, it kind of just got me thinking of the whole Tubo concept. In terms of it's something that's been around for a while. It's not a new concept. I mean, it traces back to the 19th century in Cuba where they were making tubes. But, tubes they're a part of, I think, the cigar business today. And they kind of get overlooked sometimes because some of those tube designs are, first of all, I find them very practical. And, like I said, when I could go take a cigar and put a few tubos in I could throw them in a Ziploc bag with a Bovita pack and just take them that way.
Not even that, though, Will. I mean, when I go somewhere where I know I'm going to be smoking, and, like, let's say I'm, excuse me, I'm kind of dressed up, but I know I'd have to keep a couple cigars on me, and I know it might be a little while before I smoke them. There might be a dinner involved. I'll just take a couple Tubos, stick them in my pocket, and it's perfect. I don't have to mess around with any kind of humidification or travel case. Maybe it's going to be a casual setting. I'm going to a party or whatever. I don't know if I'm going to be smoking or not. It's just a very convenient way, I find, to carry your cigars. I try and always keep some Tubo cigars around for that reason.
Yeah, and that was really also the other reason why I took them to Vegas, too, was the portability piece. So, rather than drag my whole travel humidor where I was going, again, just throw them in my pocket, throw them in my laptop bag, and, wherever, and like I said, they're really easy to kind of deal with. They're kind of hassle-free in that respect.
Right. Also, when it comes to gifts, I find Tubos to be very convenient as well. Maybe you don't know the person who you're giving the cigars to, if they have a humidor or not. And Tubos are a great way to keep your cigar humidified for some time without having to worry about, well, is that person going to have a humidor? Am I going to have to give them humidification? A Bovita pack with a Ziploc bag doesn't look very pretty, but you can put, cigar tubes in a nice packaging, and they'll stay humidified for at least a couple of days in those Tubos.
Yeah, and what got me also thinking about this particular topic was, I know I was talking to Stogie Santa about the Flor de las Antillas, that they just came out with a rounded version of it, and it's packaged in a Tubo. And when you look at the Tubo of that particular cigar and the artwork on it, some of these tubes have some very, very nice artwork on it. They're very presentable, and they make a great gift.
Absolutely. When you store Tubos in your humidor, Will, do you take them out of the tubes, though?
No.
I do sometimes, because I find if I'm going to store cigars for a long time in my humidor that are in tubes, I find it traps a lot of humidity, and you can get mold pretty easily inside of those Tubos.
Yeah, and in general, I don't keep a lot of my Tubos longer term, so that's kind of a reason for my no. But yeah, if you remember the great mold debate we had this summer,
yes,
it was I forget what the cigar was. It a Romeo y Julieta?
Yes,
Romeo. Yeah, I mean, tubes, they can build mold up quickly, as well as plume. Because they're airtight.
They can. I think most of the time it's either mold or what I was reading online is that there's also mineral deposits, which
Yeah.
are kind of sort of a form of mold. Basically, it's at some point in time that cigar was exposed to non-distilled water, and that chemical reaction can cause what looks like mold, and it's in the form of a mineral deposit, which is, I mean, neither is really good for your cigar. From what I read about the mineral deposits, was it's not necessarily harmful to your cigar like mold is, but not something I think that you want in your cigars.
No, I agree. I would agree.
And there wasn't a whole lot of definitive information about mold versus mineral deposits versus plume.
No.
I can't find anything really truly definitive about that.
I totally agree.
It's a topic we're going to continue to explore on the show, but in my research on the internet, which you don't believe everything you read on the internet, right? There was like 3 different categories of this topic that we're talking about, and there are different types of mold, right? There's mineral deposits and there's plume, and those are 3 different things. Mineral, I think, and mold being in similar family, and plume being a completely different thing.
Yeah.
So, and it's very difficult to discern between them.
No, well, yeah, obviously it is. I mean, we went through that obviously last summer.
I think for the most part, what I've read and experienced, and I've misidentified as well, for the most part, it's mold and mineral deposits, not plume.
Yeah, I mean, I probably confuse mineral deposit with plume more often. That's why I probably said that. So, but I think you would be right on that.
Plume is rare, man. I mean, I've had cigars that are 15 years old and they don't have plume on them, right?
Yeah.
Plume is a very mysterious thing.
It's a very mysterious thing. It's one of those and a misunderstood thing.
Absolutely.
Now, do you notice one thing about Tubos? They're not something that you tend to find with the smaller boutique companies.
You don't. It's almost larger companies that have
the Tubos.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, so you look at the Generals, the Dab. I mean, Davidoff has them across. Especially the Avo and the Camacho lines have a lot of tubes. Altadis, but yeah, Ashton has some, but yeah, you don't see them. There's just not a lot of companies that do it, which I just find interesting. I don't know if there's a high cost to have the tubes made. It's just something I've always wondered.
Well, it does add a cost to the cigar, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I find Tubos on sale because I think in my estimation, Tubos tend to carry a little higher price tag than the same cigar not in a tube. And people will often pass them over and just buy the one that's less expensive. So sometimes you can find boxes of Tubos, right, at a steep discount because the retailer wants to get rid of them because they're not moving, because their non-Tubo cigars are the same size and same exact cigar, are sold better for them. So I have gotten discounts on boxes of Tubos, but I will spend a little more money on my Tubo cigars because of the convenience factor, or to give them as gifts. So I think they have their place.
I agree. I would agree with that. Do you find? I mean, I find that there's some brands that they'll put a specific size in the Tubo, as opposed to having some will have the same cigar competing outside the Tubo, but I've noticed some will also be exclusively in the Tubo. For example, like this Flor de las Antillas, this is a rounded Toro size that's only in the Tubo.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Tatuaje is a good example, the red and black Tubos.
Yep.
Those only came in the Tubos. So sometimes your only option is to buy it in the Tubo. And I think a lot of manufacturers have learned, you gotta add some padding inside of that Tubo. You gotta cedar line that Tubo. So I don't know of any, well, except for the glass tubes. Glass tubes are different. But even oftentimes you find a glass tube, it will have cedar in it. So that tube is not just a metal tube, it's lined with cedar. And a lot of people don't even realize that. You take the cap off of a tube, there's usually like a little pad right? So that when the cigar's sliding around in there, it's not getting damaged. Then
Yep.
you take the cigar out, and then if you reach inside of that tube, there's cedar inside of that tube. All those things add cost, right? So it's not just a metal tube, it's not just the cap, it's the cedar inside, and it's the padding to make sure that that cigar isn't damaged. So all those factors go into a tubo.
Yep. No, that's a good point.
But now glass tubes are different. A lot of times you will find a glass tube cigar that doesn't have cedar. There's usually a cork on the end of that. And obviously that's probably, I would surmise that that's more expensive than a metal tube.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the glass tubes with some of the General's products in the Cohiba line.
I've seen
They've
the
made-
Partagas. The Partagas,
Artigas as well, yeah.
what is a Partagas with? It's got a little dongle on it.
The
Oh, what is that? I should
the
know
green,
that.
it's the green label.
The green, yeah. Decadus.
Decadus. Yeah.
Decadus, yes.
Dec-
That's a beautiful tubo, by the way. And a great
It re-
cigar, too.
Yeah, and it's sealed. It's got that seal, so you kind of.
It's like a wax seal, yeah.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
also, yeah.
Go
yeah.
ahead. I was
They're
going to say
also-
that all that adds to the cost.
It does, but that's also, I think that's a special. That's a special cigar. I mean,
Absolutely.
so again, I think when you get into a cigar like that, it's a gift cigar too.
That's a fantastic gift cigar
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
for the Stogie geek in your life.
100%. Now there are some tubos that are humidified, and there's a couple in particular that I'm aware of. There are humiditubes made by Altadis. So if you look at some of the Altadis stuff, they do have some humidified tubes, and then of course there's the folks up at with Atabay.
Yes,
Byron
that's the
and
one I was thinking
Bandolero.
of. Those tubes are awesome.
Those tubes are awesome as well. Again,
I mean, they're like mini humidors.
yes, yeah, they definitely are. And those tubes. I mean, I do reuse those tubes. But the funny thing is, I didn't take those tubes with me to Vegas because I didn't want them.
They're almost too
breaking.
nice. Yeah.
They're almost too nice to take there. Yeah. Now with tubes, do you what do you do with your tubes when you toss them?
I toss them now. Yeah.
Toss them now.
I was
I'm
starting to save them. I don't know. I'm starting to save a lot less.
Yeah.
I used to save the tins and the boxes and the tubes and the coffins. And then at some point, I'm like, why am I saving? This is ridiculous. I throw it all out now. Which is bad. I feel bad because it's such beautiful. I'm like, I'm not going to use this anymore.
So you don't reuse your tubes. Do you ever reuse your tubes?
I save a couple of really nice tubes to reuse. Like once I got the ones from like the Byron and the Atabay, I save those and I throw out all the rest of my tubes.
Right. I tend to save some of my other. I tend to just save all the tubes, and I have a drawer of these things, and I never reuse them, except for like I said, the Byron and the Atabay ones.
Right.
But yeah, I'll never.
Less is more, man. Less is more.
Yeah. And I don't know why I save them either. I think I just have to kind of let go with it sometimes too.
I think you do too.
Yeah.
The only time I'll save that stuff is if we're going to decorate the studio or like make something with it. I will save up that stuff and then make something with it. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, with boxes, it's a little easier. And coffins, when you get into tubes, I do tend to see them used as Christmas ornaments a lot.
You're right.
Because the artwork is nice, it's very easy to string something around it.
Yeah.
They tend to make their way for Christmas ornaments, though. I haven't found another use for them otherwise.
I think my wife would kill me if I started hanging cigar tubes on the tree.
Yeah. I don't think that would go over too well.
No, she's kind of particular about the tree. That
Yeah.
wouldn't fly.
Want to mess with that? Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all about cigar tubes and tubos. So stay tuned. We're going to come back with our Stogies of the week. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.